Assassin's Creed Shadows has been a very divisive game so far, and there are a lot of gamers out there who are very upset with Ubisoft and the historical inaccuracies within this title, and just the seemingly blatant disrespect for Japanese culture in totality. But there are a few people out there who are genuinely excited, who are saying it's going to be amazing, and of course, the access media is going to prop up their stance and say this is how gamers actually feel, and now they're attacking everybody who is criticizing this game, calling us racists. But before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, there are millions of gamers who have been heavily criticizing Assassin's Creed Shadows, and that's not a problem. We're not racists for calling out a product with tons of historical inaccuracies, and when a company just doesn't care about giving their customers a high quality experience. I have said this from the start. The problem is not that they put someone like Yasuke in this game. The problem is that, first of all, he is the protagonist, so as a playable character, you're going to inevitably make decisions which would be inaccurate for the living person, the person he is based off of. Like, if there's LGBTQ romances in this game, which we know there are, did he ever partake in those in real life? There's no evidence to point to that, so that's historically inaccurate. Then, of course, you have things like Chinese architecture in this game, which is not accurate. You also have just very small details like a reenactment group's banners being plastered around this game, and while they did end up removing them from the title itself, they didn't remove it from things like the art book, and all of these problems have definitely piled up and have made Ubisoft look extremely bad. And keep in mind, this is the company that just a few years ago gave all of the blueprints and the schematics they had for Notre Dame to the team that was restoring the building after, of course, the devastating fire, because they had it all on hand, because they actually did their fucking jobs with the old Assassin's Creed games, because they cared so much about historical accuracy that they had completely mapped out buildings to put them in their games better. But now we have reenactment groups banners in our games. We have things like inaccurate architecture because they just do not care anymore. The dollar store historians that they're hiring are only damaging their image. But now, of course, as we're getting closer to release, the access media is doing their best to defend Ubisoft tooth and nail. They're trying to sit here and call us racists, and they're using the few very passionate fans as a way to attack us because, as it says, of course, there are Reddit threads and also posts over on X where people are discussing the situation, and that means that there are some fans in agreement and that are complaining about the toxic Shadows community. Looking at the comments is a welcome surprise. While it has been locked by the subreddit's moderators, you'll find that many in the community are in support of the OP's message, which said Assassin's Creed Shadows has revealed just how ugly the gaming community is. I've been a gamer for my whole life, but I've never seen people act more feral about a game than they did with Shadows. I'm talking about blatant racism, bias, and openly admitting to wanting tens of thousands of people to lose their jobs. I'm just sick and tired of this, and I say this all of the time. I don't want people to lose their jobs because I don't want awful games to be coming out. I want every single title that's releasing to be a 10 out of 10. I want them to all be fantastic, but unfortunately, that's not the reality that we live in. That is not the situation that we are presented with. A lot of games come out and they are really bad. And sure, there are always going to be bad apples in every bunch. There are always going to be some people who inevitably push the limits and say, oh, we need to get all of these people fired, or even going so far as to send these individuals like death threats, which is absolutely disgusting and not okay. But there have been, as far as we know, no developers who have come out and said that this has happened. And second of all, while yes, there are a lot of threads online of people criticizing this game, It is a product that we are allowed to criticize. And just because it happens to feature a black character and we criticize it, that does not instantly mean that we are racist. Just because it features a woman does not mean we are instantly sexist or misogynist. There are other posts on this thread saying, I have lent towards ignoring the gaming community at large because of the toxicity. I left all the generic Facebook groups and subreddits and have instead just taken up the individual gamer series ones. I never really followed YouTubers because they were always pretty toxic. It's not just this game though. You have a huge amount of people now who go out of their way to look for things that are negative. You have entire YouTube channels that built their entire channel about reporting anything negative, which of course is hilarious because I would be one of these channels that they would criticize because I happen to put up videos that are critical on the industry. But first of all, we should not be treated as walking wallets. Companies should be forced to give us high quality products and we should be allowed to criticize them. Why do companies put up teasers and trailers? Why do they do gameplay showcases? Because they want us to judge their products and judge if we want to buy them or not. So just because we happen to judge games and that leans negative in some cases, that does not mean that we're toxic. That does not mean we're terrible people. But second of all, I stream games on my channel. I have always been a video game streamer. I have been a streamer since the beginning of my channel. I have hundreds of games that I've streamed. Last year, I streamed over I think it was like 47 in total games, but over 45 games that I ended up streaming. That is a very big number. And why do I do that? Because I love games and because I want games to be great. But just because I put up videos where I criticize the industry, that doesn't mean that I want all games to fail or I'm nitpicking just for the sake of nitpicking. Make better games and we won't have anything to criticize. Developers could prove us wrong. They could put out tons of high quality products, but have they been? In a lot of cases, no, sure. There are a lot of games that still release today in this current, year or last year that are absolutely amazing. I do not think that every game that comes out is complete trash. Last year, of course, we had Black Myth Wukong, we had Stellar Blade, we had Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, we had Princess Peach Showtime, we had Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. I mean, I could go on, and these are all really fantastic experiences, but how many failures did we have? Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Flintlock The Siege of Dawn, Dustborn, Concord, Unknown 9 Awakening, Dragon Age The Veilguard. I mean, the list goes on as well. So while we have a lot of failures and we are criticizing them, and there are also some games that still release that are good, ultimately all we're doing is judging just like you are, which is so funny. Oh, it's okay that they judge as long as it's the opinion that they agree with. And the access media, in this case, specifically the gamer, is really only taking this thread and trying to use it against gamers to say, oh, look, see, there is racism. They have grabbed onto this thread. They've latched onto it in order to just push a narrative that gamers are toxic and gamers are sexist and gamers are racist, which is just what they do. So they have put up an article complaining about toxic YouTubers when they are being toxic journos. If I'm bad, you're just as bad because you could just be talking about all of the positivity surrounding this game, all of the awesome news that, or at least that you think is awesome news surrounding this game. But what are you doing? You are hung up on gamers who are just not happy with the experience. And we are going to see a lot more of this as we get closer to release. We're going to see a lot more coping by the media. And keep in mind, just a few months ago, Ubisoft had ran to New York Times to put out a massive hit piece on gamers. Now The Gamer is putting out one of their own volition, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more as we get closer to the release. But yes, apparently we are racist because we have criticized Assassin's Creed Shadows. And keep in mind, throughout this entire article, they didn't even give one example of all of this toxicity or this racism that they're claiming is happening. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.